when subtracting rational expressions, sometimes it's careful to rewrite them as addition of a negative instead of just pure subtraction. So what you may want to do is change it right away. Addition of a negative 2. Addition of a negative 4. And it just might make it a little bit easier for you going forward. Even this one in here, we have a negative sign out here. You can bring it right up there with the 9. So now if I wanted to add these two, I would do it vertically. So negative 9/40 plus negative 2 over 5x. So now I'm looking for a common denominator between 40 and 5x. If I'm looking at 40 and 5x, well, 40 is a multiple of 5, so I can say that 40x is my common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this by a fraction to equal another fraction with that common denominator. I'm going to do the same thing here. 40 times x would be 40x, so this fraction is going to be x over x. 5x times 8 would be 40x, so this fraction is going to be 8 over 8. Again, notice how both of these fractions, x over x equals 1, and 8 over 8 equals 1. So now negative 9 times x would be negative 9x. Negative 2 times 8 would be negative 16, both over 40x. So negative 9/40 plus negative 2 over 5x is the same as negative 9x over 40x minus 16 over 40x, which is the same as negative 9x minus 16 over 40x. Again, if I had a common factor with any of these three numbers, 9, 16, and 40, I would be able to factor that out, but I am unable to do that, so I am left with negative 9x minus 16 over 40x as the sum of these two numbers. Now we'll do the same thing here, again noting how this was negative 4 over z, and I changed it to addition of negative 4 over z. That's just something I like to do to make these a little simpler. I'm going to get vertical with this. So I have 6 over z squared plus negative 4 over z. My LCD between z squared and z has to be z squared because it has to have two factors of z in it. So I'm going to just stick to the process here. I'm going to multiply this by some fraction that gives me an LCD of z squared. Well, it already is z squared, so I'm just multiplying by 1 over 1. So 6 over z squared doesn't change. In order for me to get from z to z squared, I have to be multiplying by z. This needs to be some version of 1 so that this value doesn't change. So z over z is 1. Negative 4 times z is negative 4z. So 6 over z squared plus negative 4 over z is the same as 6 over z squared minus 4z over z squared, which is the same as 6 minus 4z over z squared. Notice how I can't factor anything out of these three coefficients, 6, 4, or 1. And if there were a z in this term, I'd be able to cancel a z out of every term, but since there's only z's in these two, I can't cancel anything. So if I'm adding these two fractions together or subtracting the original positive 4 over z, this is what I would be left with.